going to be teaching you how to make use of this Google AI Studio, right? So if you just type in Google AI Studio, so this is you can just go through the first link, and this is where you will be landing. All right. So if you just see here, this is the UI. So this is the UI of the Google AI Studio. So this is how it's going to look like. At the left side, you have all your chat history that you have, this is like, your library. You can just go through your entire chat history, the chat history that you've been, communicating with this Google AI Studios. All right. So at the bottom, you have your documentation forum, API for enterprise and all those things. So here you have your, basic setups. Okay. So the right side is where like the most important thing lies, which is the setting in order for you to configure before you actually, interact with these AI models. All right. So the first we have model. So this is where you can get to choose the latest model. So the best part about this Google AI Studio is that you get to have the latest Google's model, which is Gemini, right? So I think currently the newest model is actually Gemini 1.5 Pro, but I think recently they've also released few experimental, so that's why it's called preview. Okay, so these are like experimental models, all right? So you can just make use of anything, and here you will be able to see the API cost. Again, this is going to be like really, I mean, like you have to pay only if you're going beyond your threshold. Okay, but if you're just for testing purpose, just for learning, this is like free version is more than enough. All right, so here you can get to choose your model, and here you will have your open source model, and here you'll have your tuned model. As I told, right, like you'll be able to fine tune your model. So this is where you get to see your tuned model. So for this purpose, I'm going to be choosing Gemini 1.5 Pro. All right, so here you get to see the token count. So the best part about Google's AI model is that they have the humongous token count, which is they have around 2 million token, so which is like the huge, right, for any AI model out there. So you'll be able to put in content up to 2 million tokens, which is like humongous, right? So the third setting is temperature. So if you would have been playing around with a lot of AI tools thus far, I'm pretty sure you would have known what a temperature is. So to put it in a very simple terms, temperature is a configuration, or it's a parameter in LLM, which is large language model, all right? Which decides the randomness of the content. It's as simple as that. It decides like how random you want your content to be. Say, for example, the highest we can go is 2, and the lowest is actually 0. So which means that if you're going as low as possible, then it's going to be the content which the AI is going to generate is going to be completely consistent. It's not going to be creating a vague content, or it's not going to create a lot of creative content. Whereas if you just go all the way to 2, it's going to be as creative as possible. It's going to be like irrelevant because you're trying to be as creative. When you're saying as creative, right, so the next word which it predicts, right, that can be anything. It can be completely out of your context as well. So I highly recommend you to just have one, which is the default option, if I'm not wrong. Okay, you can just go with one. So this is like anywhere in between is what I would say. You're not going all the way down, and you're not going all the way to the highest value. All right, so this is going to be like really in between. Okay, so yeah, again, like you don't have to get very much confused about this setting. This is just a way for you to be as creative as possible. Let's say you're writing a lot of copy for your landing pages or your Facebook ad, or be it anything. So in that case, you can try to be as creative as possible. So in that case, you can kind of increase your temperature. Otherwise, the least or like one would be like ideal. All right. Next we have tools. So this are like these tools are like an extra feature that you can fit in, I would say, or you can just associate with your large language model. So currently, if you look at large language models, they just have their own content or their own training data. But what if you wanted to make use of this large language model but also with an external tools? So that's where these tools are going to be useful. Okay, so one such tool is called JSON model. So this, when you just turn this on, and when you just ask it to generate a content, right, it outputs the content. Instead of a long form content, it's going to be output in a way where in the JSON format. Okay, again, this is going to be really helpful for developers. So as a disclaimer, I would say that all these three tools, right, except grounding, JSON model, code execution, and function calling, these three is going to be completely useful if you are a developer, because developers are the one who's going to be using a lot of these three tools. All right, so for simplicity sake, let's just say that JSON model, when you just turn this on, the output what you're going to be getting is completely based on JSON model. All right, it's not model mode, sorry. Second is code execution. So when you've turned on code execution, you can ask it'll help you with a lot of Python code. So let's say you're building out any AI application or anything for that matter. Okay, if you're using Python, then you can make use of code execution. When this is turned on, LLM is kind of tuned in such a way that it gives you the right code, is what I would say, for your AI project, or for any other project that you're actually creating using Python. Okay, so that's code execution. Next is function calling. So function calling is a bit advanced, I would say. So this is, as I said, this is a way for your LLM to be able to talk to other system or external systems for you to get an answer. So say for example, you're building out an AI model that helps you to book flights, or that helps you to get all the flight details from boarding point to the destination. All right, so in this case, you will not be able to directly talk to your LLM model because it doesn't have those real-time data. But when you're making use of function calling, right, there are like other external API which has these real-time data. So what your LLM will be able to do when this function calling is enabled is that it will be able to talk to that specific provider, is what I would say. In this case, the source of truth. Okay, it'll be able to go there, and it'll be able to fetch all the information. It can then give it to you. So this is like, again, this is like a bit beyond like advanced, is what I'm saying. Okay, so you don't have to worry about these as well. Next, the most important thing is grounding, right? So grounding is, to put it in a very simple term for you people, if you would have been playing around with Perplexity AI. So Perplexity AI is another AI tool, which is an AI based search engine, wherein you just give a prompt instead of giving a list of link like Google. What it does is it gives you the actual answers with the citations. So what grounding does is that's the same thing. When you turn on grounding and when you ask like real time updates, right, it'll be able to go through this entire Google search database, and it'll be able to give you the right answer. So the best part about using grounding is that it doesn't hallucinate, because it's trying to get the right information that's already been provided in the Google search by other blog writers or other companies out there. All right, so it doesn't hallucinate. Second is that you'll be able to get up to date information, so you're not actually being restricted to your cutoff knowledge. Because if you're just directly interacting with LLM, you'll be only restricted with your cutoff knowledge, which is, I think, 21, 22. That completely depends on the models. Okay, but when you're having Google search or Google grounding, in this, the feature is called Google grounding. Okay, so when this is turned on, you'll be able to get up to date information based on the output that it's actually generating. All right, so this is like most important, you can make use of this, right? And here, this safety settings, this by default you have all your safety settings, right? You can just ignore this. Okay, next is add stop sequence. Now this is a way for you to exactly stop the generation of content after a specific text or a character. Okay, so again, this is going to be like really like restricting your AI model, so you don't have to play around with a lot of these things. And the final, what we have is, I mean, I think we have lost last two more features out there. Sorry, settings. So the second last is the output length. So based on the number that you give here, it'll be able to exactly output based on this token length. Okay, this is called like token length. Okay, so the higher you want, you can just make use of this. As I said, it will be able to have up to 2 million token context. All right, so you can just make use of that. And P. Now, P is another parameter like temperature that we've just discussed. P is also, again, it's another parameter which helps you to it helps you to generate content based on the creativity. So this is, again, this is like kind of similar to temperature, but the way it works is a bit different. Okay, so how does an AI LLM model work in a very simple term is that it is actually trying to do a lot of permutation and combination, is what I would say, to give you the right word after a specific sentence. So let's say we have a sentence called cat is sitting on a mat or anything. Okay, so those on mat is actually the predictive word, predictive letters and words. All right, so when you choose this top P, right, based on the value here, it will actually try to pick out all the words which has a specific value that's been assigned to it already, and based on the number that you give here, it takes out, let's say, on mat, we have those two words, right? So already there'll be a specific numerical value that's been assigned to those different words. All right, so now based on this value, which is 0.95, right, 0. I think the highest is 1. So it will try to take all those words which is below 1. If it exceeds above 1, then it's going to leave out that specific word or letter. But if it comes below 1, then it has those pool of words on mat. So those things, okay, it has those pool of words. From those pool of words, it can randomly pick one. All right. Now again, this is just an enhanced way of bringing a creative content. Okay. So if you are a person who want to have consistent, if you are a person who's writing, let's say ghostwriting for anyone. If you are writing for other people, there has to be a brand tone. Tonality matters a lot, right? So if you're like worrying more about your consistency, then I would say just keep this as zero point 0.9 as the default value, and similarly temperature is going to be 1. Okay, so that you don't you don't get like very vague or inconsistent content. And if you want to learn about in detail about how temperature and how top you work, so what I'm going to do is like I can just provide you a white paper, okay, which is being released by Google itself on the foundation of LLMs. I'll just link down those resources in my comment section. You'll be able to exactly go through their white paper and you'll be able to understand it. Okay, so with that, all the settings has been done. So now let's try out the model itself. All right, so I think I have all my settings done. Okay, so for this purpose, what am I going to do is like I'm going to be writing out, and here you'll be able to name your prompt. Okay, so say for example, I'm going to be doing, sorry, LinkedIn content generation for client. All right, say for example, you'll be able to give your description as well. So this is a prompt. Okay, so what am I going to do is I'm going to take out a raw form of content that I have written for my client, and I'm going to be putting it here inside this Google AI model to enhance it in a better way. All right, so I have my prompt here. So this is my prompt. I'm just going to copy paste my prompt. All right, so if you can just see, right, I have just copy pasted my prompt. And if you're worrying about prompt engineering, I just want you to remember one thing, there's a lot of free tools out there where you can exactly learn about how prompt engineering works. Okay, so I use a very simple technique. So I use a technique called RACEF. Okay, so R stands for role, A stands for action, C stands for context, E is example, and F is format. But I don't use E and F much. I just pretty much fit everything inside role, action, and context. So role, I just give it a specific role. An action, what is the action that I want the LLM model to do? And the context is where I actually put in all the context, okay, of like exactly what are the things that I require when the model is actually generating the content. All right. So this is the framework that I use. There's like a lot of other frameworks. You can also, I think there's another white paper that's being given by Google itself, which I'll link down in my description, where it helps you to learn about prompt engineering as well. All right, so I'll just link that as well. So now I've just given the prompt. Now I'm gonna be giving the actual content. If you can just see, so this is the raw content that I have written. All right, so I'm just gonna copy paste this. I'm gonna be putting it here. Okay, I can enter this. So it's still user. Okay, so I'm gonna be say uh, below is the content for you to regenerate, sorry, based on the given context. All right, so this is the content. So I'm just going to be, so if you could just see here, guys, what have I done? I've just given a role, and I've given an action, and I've given a context. So I'm just saying I'm writing this LinkedIn content for my client who's a business owner who helps businesses with implementation of no-code tools, automation, AI workflows, etc. I'm ghostwriting for him because he wants to showcase his authority and expertise on LinkedIn. I want you to review my content thoroughly and do the necessary changes like grammar, sentence correction, but always remember to keep the same context, and also never ever take away my original story writing. It has to be as humanly written as possible. Our objective is to be get the target audience to read our content and become our client. Always take your time, think, and generate the content. So this is just a basic context that I've given. You can try to, as I told, see whatever I've given so far, right? It just amounts to just 438 token. As I said, you have like humongous, which is like 2 million token. All right. So you'll be able to give a lot of context here. So for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to give this, and this is the content. Now I'm going to hit the run. So here you'll be able to see the time, and here you can see the model. So this is actually taking the time to generate, content for you. So if you can just see, so let's refine your LinkedIn post to highlight your client's expertise in no code. All right. I'll focus on clear, concise language and compelling a narrative and a strong call to action. Okay, please provide the current draft. I'm sorry, I think it did not take my, exact context into place. I forgot to. So this is the actual content. I forgot to put it right below the context. Okay, I think that's why it didn't. Okay, yeah. So I'm just gonna take this content I'm gonna say here's the content. I should have actually, guys, I should have actually, put this right inside my context so it would have understood. But anyways, so now, yeah, so it's actually generating. You see, right? So as it generates, let's just read through the content. Unleash the power of Google AI Studio, your no-code gateway of AI. Google AI Studio isn't just a place to interact with Google's AI model. It's a comprehensive platform that empowers businesses to harness the true potential of AI. It's a game changer, especially for those embracing a no-code approach. See, that's the truth, right? Like as I said, if you're even if you're a no-code guy, you'll be able to exactly, navigate this space. Here's how it can revolutionize workflows: one-stop AI model access, comparative analysis, real-world accuracy with grounding, simplified model training, streamline API management, code generation for non-technical users, feed your availability, right? So if you just look at my content, what have I given is, where's my content? Yeah, Google AI Studio, one place to talk to all Google AI models. So I've just given in very simple terms. All right, now here it has given in a much more efficient and an enhanced way. But if you do feel that this specific content is a bit more robotic or it's a bit more machine written, right? You can always do a lot of editing here, right? So it's completely in your hands. You can give as much context as possible. You can give as much examples as possible to get the right type of output. Okay, so this is how you can make use of this model. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is, like, we have something called compare here. When I just compare here, right, I'll be able to choose two different models. This is going to be really helpful if you have a fine-tuned model. And guys, I'm going to be making another video on how to fine-tune a model right inside this Google AI Studio. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. So say for example, I have a fine-tuned model here. So this is like AI LinkedIn content as a fine-tuned model. So I can choose this, and now I'll be able to generate the same content. Now I'll be able to compare exactly which model is performing better. Or if you wanted to try out different Google's model itself, here I have like 1.5 Pro and here I have like 1.5 Flash, right? So the best part about this is, like, you'll be able to exactly compare like how two different model work. So this is an amazing feature as well. All right. and and apart from this, so again, if you're a developer, you'll be able to get this entire conversation that we had, right, using a code. So you'll be able to use this, and you can just make use of it either locally, or if you're using it via API, you can also do this. All right, you can get the code. So this is pretty much about how Google AI Studio works. And if you wanted to create a new prompt, you'll be able to go here and you'll be able to create a new prompt. And if you click your prompt gallery, so this is by default. Okay, that's been given by Google itself. You have, like, all the prompts that you can create is what I would say. And here, if you just go to view all, so this is where you'll be able to see exactly all the conversation that you had with your AI model. So those library lives here. All right. And yeah, so if you want to get an API key for this, you'll be able to just go to API, get API key, and you can just create an API key. You have to give access to a specific project, and you'll be able to do that. Okay, so this is like pretty easy. You have a lot of tutorials as well out there. Or let's say in my next video, as I said, when I'm creating a video on how to do fine tuning using Google AI Studio, right? So in that case, I'll also help you to learn about how to get access to API keys as well. All right, so this is pretty much about how it works. And by the way, so this is just basic text generation. If you just click the plus icon here, I'll be able to upload my drive files, upload any files locally from my computer, record a audio. I can use my camera, I can use sample media. I'll be able to do any sort of things. Like, say for example, you have a PDF file of up to 20 to 30 pages, and if you want to have a lot of summarization, or if you want to chat with those specific PDF, right, you can just make use of this. So this, I think, this is like by far the best tool out there to interact with all the Google's AI model, all right, for free. That's the biggest advantage here. Of course, again, like as I've mentioned earlier, you have a lot of limitations. But if you're just a student, or if you're just a freelancer who want to make use of these AI tools for your day-to-day activities, then I think this tool covers it all right. So I think you would have understood like how this Google AI Studio works. So please make use of this AI tool. I mean, yeah, Google AI Studio, and let me know how it works for you. All right.